On this edition for Sunday, September 8th, President Trump says he canceled a secret meeting with the Taliban. The latest on the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. And in our signature segment, tackling the norms of masculinity. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Srinivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A possible peace deal between the U.S. and the Taliban that could lead to the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan ended abruptly last night when President Donald Trump issued a series of surprising tweets. After months of negotiations, the president tweeted, quote, "Unbeknownst to almost everyone, the major Taliban leaders and separately the president of Afghanistan were going to secretly meet with me at Camp David on Sunday." He then called off more negotiations. Mr. Trump said he was canceling all talks because the Taliban admitted to a suicide car bombing on Thursday near the U.S. Embassy in Kabul that killed a U.S. soldier and 11 others. The body of Sergeant First Class Ellis Barreto Ortiz was returned last night. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo attended the ceremony at Dover Air Force Base. Ortiz was the fourth U.S. service member killed in Afghanistan in the past 2 weeks. This morning on the Sunday TV talk shows, Pompeo defended the president's decision to call off the peace talks.
The Taliban tried to gain negotiating advantage by conducting terror attacks inside of the country. President Trump made the right decision to say that's not going to work. We're going to walk away from a deal if others try to use violence to achieve better ends in a negotiation. It's not right. It's not appropriate. It killed an American, and it made no sense for the Taliban to be rewarded for that kind of bad behavior.
Joining us now from Afghanistan via Skype is Craig Nelson, Kabul bureau chief for the Wall Street Journal. Craig, were you surprised by the president's tweets?
Yes, very. President Trump has sort of steered clear of the Afghan peace process quite a bit. As a candidate, he, of course, said he would like to see U.S. troops out of there. But since the peace process sort of got started and the U.S. started direct talks with the Taliban last summer, he's made occasional comments, but he's generally steered clear. And so that was shocking.
What about the parties involved that you've been able to touch base with? Were they planning on having a meeting?
The Taliban have said that they had received an invitation from President Trump last month to come to Washington to visit. The Taliban didn't specify a date today. Mm-hmm. The Afghan government sort of leaked information on Friday suggesting that they were going to go to Washington. There was no indication at all that they were going to meet with President Trump, and there was no indication that they were going to go to Camp David. So obviously, when there's a Camp David event, that's a very, very big deal. And President Trump obviously wanted to sort of try to bridge the differences and push this U.S.-Taliban agreement over the line. Obviously, something has happened. The single American death from a suicide bombing on Thursday here in Kabul seems like a pretty flimsy pretext to call off the negotiations. As you well know, there are frequent bombings here. We've had at least 14 U.S. soldiers killed this year so far. So obviously something else is at play here, and it's not, the White House hasn't said exactly what that is.
How were the talks progressing? I mean, over the past couple of months, we've heard that they're getting closer and closer. What were the final sticking points?
We were there. We were there on Sunday. The U.S. chief U.S. negotiator to the U.S. Taliban talks that have been taking place in Qatar said that after 9 rounds of talks, he tweeted that we are at the threshold, and all that was needed at that point a week ago was President Trump's sign-off. the Ambassador Khalilzad, came to Kabul. Here he was excoriated by Afghan government officials and the president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, who feel that they resent that they've been left out of the talks, who feel like they're not getting adequate security guarantees from the Taliban. And Khalilzad had a very, very rough week here. He returned to Doha to talk to the Taliban on Friday, and then bingo, the tweet dropped.
Is there any hope of salvaging these conversations? I mean, this seems to undercut the work that Khalilzad has been doing for months.
Yeah, remarkable. He's been at it for about a year. It's an important stepping stone to a comprehensive agreement to end this nearly 18-year war, which is America's longest war. He was almost there, so it's a real big setback. I don't think anyone thinks now. Certainly, the consensus is that there is no military victory here in Afghanistan. The U.S. and the Taliban have both conceded that no side is going to win. The Taliban controls more territory in Afghanistan than they have since the U.S. invasion in 2001. So the prospect of military victory is gone. They're going to have to talk. They're going to have to come back to the table at some point. Under what circumstances? How many people are going to die in the meantime? That's the question.
All right, Craig Nelson, Wall Street Journal's Kabul bureau chief, joining us via Skype tonight. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
The storm that was Hurricane Dorian made one more landfall yesterday, striking eastern Canada. In Halifax, a construction crane collapsed from winds that topped 90 miles per hour. The Canadian military was deployed to help clear roads and restore power to hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses throughout Nova Scotia. In the Bahamas, where Dorian hit the northern islands as a Category 5 hurricane last week, officials say the death toll of more than 40 people is expected to rise. Evacuations continue, with ferries bringing survivors from the hard-hit Abaco Islands to the Bahamas' capital city of Nassau. A cargo ship with a crew of 24 on board overturned and caught fire as it left the port of Brunswick in Georgia late last night. The U.S. Coast Guard rescued all but 4 of those on board after receiving a 911 call that the 656-foot vehicle carrier, the Golden Ray, was listing heavily in St. Simons Sound. Other vessels are not allowed within a half mile of the ship, while investigation and search for the missing crew members is underway. Demonstrators in Hong Kong marched to the U.S. consulate today to ask President Donald Trump to liberate the semi-autonomous territory from China. Thousands joined the peaceful march and chanted "Resist Beijing" while waving American flags and singing the Star-Spangled Banner. They urged Washington to pass a bill called the Hong Kong Democratic and Human Rights Act that would impose sanctions on officials who suppress human rights. Violence broke out later in a business district, and police fired tear gas at protesters who vandalized subway stations, set fires, and blocked traffic. Former South Carolina Governor and Congressmember Mark Sanford became the 3rd challenger to President Trump for the Republican nomination in 2020. Sanford announced his run on Fox News Sunday, saying, quote, "The Republican Party has lost its way." He and the other challengers face an uphill battle for delegates as states, including South Carolina, have already canceled their Republican primaries and caucuses. Both parties have canceled primaries and caucuses in the past when an incumbent president is running for a second term. The subject of masculinity is a topic of conversation these days. It's something you see from the op-ed pages of newspapers to shaving commercials.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
Those who think masculinity is under assault criticize that ad. Some even vowed to boycott the company, but others applauded it. There is an effort underway to change the ways of the American male. You can find it on the football field, in the mosh pit, and in the work of the American Psychological Association. NewsHour Weekend's Christopher Booker explains.
The rhythm is violent, and the pace is menacing. But there's a contradiction running through the songs of the British band Idols. The sound may be hard, but it's driven by compassion, an unrelenting celebration of vulnerability, acceptance, and mindfulness, all performed with the intensity of a freight train. Tonight, the band is playing for a sold-out crowd of 500 people in Albany, New York. Joe Talbot is the lead singer and band's principal lyricist.
It's a purposeful journey we're going on.
What is the purpose?
To start conversation, I think. I think any good art starts conversation. It doesn't end it.
The conversation Idols is looking to start is a complicated one. But at its core, they are asking the audience, particularly the men in the crowd, to reconsider how they treat one another, how they treat women, and how they treat themselves.
If you share your feelings, your load gets lighter, and you will have a better outcome.
Throughout their performance, Talbot takes aim at what he sees as the traps of masculinity, how boys are taught to be tough and told to swallow their emotions.
Were these the kind of words you heard as a young kid growing up in England?
Yeah, just pull your socks up, don't cry, all that stuff is completely normal and normalized. I was definitely part of that machismo, part of that discourse of sucking it up and, being tough.
Talbot says being taught to suppress his feelings did little to help with what was to come his way. At 16, his mother had a stroke and was paralyzed. And after his stepfather died, he became her primary caretaker. Despite being taught to be tough, Talbot wasn't prepared for his mother's death in 2015. Her passing was followed 2 years later by the stillbirth of his daughter.
After my mum died, and before my daughter died, and I was just struggling to say all these things that I have never said. I was like, why haven't I ever said them? That's mental.
This is when Talbot decided to start therapy.
And I just crumbled. So I realized I had a lot of learning to do, and it was the best thing I've ever done in my life.
And so do you find your performances and the experience of playing with a band like this, is it a form of catharsis?
Yeah, learning how to channel my feelings with behavior and art. Mindfulness, practicing self-respect and outward respect, and learning how to create a new language within myself where I could live a better life and survive what I was going through.
Research is increasingly showing Talbot is correct. Learning to be in touch with one's emotions can change lives. And the way men are traditionally taught to hold them in may be connected to an avalanche of unhealthy outcomes. In 2018, the American Psychological Association published the APA Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Boys and Men. The first report of its kind, the collected research found that, quote, traditional masculinity, marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression, is, on the whole, harmful. Written over 13 years and based on 40 years of compiled research, the report lays out some striking mental and physical health disparities between men and women. Men are 3.5 times more likely to commit suicide, and men die from heart disease and cancer at rates 50% and 80% higher than women.
We know that men, on average, die 5 to 6 years earlier than do women.
Psychologist Christopher Liang is the chairperson of Lehigh University's College of Education and was a co-author of the APA Guidelines.
When boys are not allowed to express their sadness, their hurts, when they're growing up, they're essentially taught that they shouldn't have pain. And what that does over time is it creates a condition where boys, who are becoming men, stuff their pain. And so the document seeks to help people understand one potential pathway for how men come to be at such greater risk for experiencing greater health problems, physical health problems, and mental health problems.
We don't have to hide from it. It's okay to ask for help. We don't always have to be stoic and hold it in.
Ted Bunch has given this talk hundreds of times before, to everyone from NFL teams to law enforcement agencies. And today, he's speaking to Miami University of Ohio's men's football team,
There's a lot of pressure on athletes, and they're not expected to ask for help. And you don't want to do anything that's going to make you look weak in the eyes of other players, coaches, anything. If we take these boundaries off, then there's all these doors that open.
A co-founder of A Call to Men, a nonprofit violence prevention organization, Bunch works to train and educate men and boys to embrace what he calls healthy and respectful manhood.
When we experience other things like disappointment, sadness, hurt, and pain, and we were that little boy who wanted to express that, like by crying, what were we told? Stop crying. What else were we told? Suck it up. What else were we told? Don't show it. That's right. We were told all those things.
But the emphasis isn't solely on expanding the emotional range of men. It's also focused on how male socialization can be harmful to women.
We're taught that women and girls have less value than men and boys, right? We give those messages all the time. Saying things like, you throw like a girl. What does that little boy leave that interaction thinking girls are equal to him or less than him? Well, we talk about domestic violence and sexual assault. While most of domestic violence and sexual assault is perpetrated by men, that's true. Most of it's done by men, but most men don't do it. But we're silent about those that do. And that's as much of the problem as the violence is. Does that make sense, folks?
Bunch believes the opportunity for change is now.
We're the first generation of men being held accountable for something men have always gotten away with. And we're going to deconstruct manhood. We're going to deconstruct it. We're going to lift it up, right? Because this is not an indictment on manhood. It's actually an invitation to men.
That seems like a remarkably difficult task to ask within the context of the American folklore. I mean, thinking about the American West, John Wayne, all these ideas of self-made, self-driven existence.
Yeah.
You know, it's in our DNA, for lack of a better term.
In our social DNA. What we're wanting for boys and men is for them to understand that self-reliance is good, it is healthy, it is important, but that they don't need to conform to it so rigidly that they can't ask for help when they need to.
And this is what Idols is bringing to its audience night after night, a celebration of the relief that can come from letting go. Two days after their show in Albany, the band is in Brooklyn, playing another sold-out show, this time for 1,800 people.
We're not saying that you can't be masculine now. Just allow yourself the room to listen to yourself and breathe and find out who you actually are.
However you define what they're doing, Idols has found an audience. They were nominated as the Best British Breakout Artist for this year's Brit Awards. Earlier in the summer, they played in Chicago at the Lollapalooza Festival. And in June, they played the largest gig of their careers at Glastonbury, England's annual mega festival that hosts over 200,000 people.
The feeling, I cannot explain to someone the physicality of alleviating that pain, of just talking about your feelings. It's life-changing. It is.
It's New York Fashion Week, where designers' latest collections are on full display for the industry, the press, and the public. But with global concerns over the environmental impact and cheap labor involved in clothing production, there's a growing movement by some in the industry away from fast fashion. I recently spoke with Dana Thomas, author of Fashionopolis, The Price of Fast Fashion and the Future of Clothes.
Fast fashion is trendy clothes made in vast amounts at lightning speed, sold at rock bottom prices in thousands of stores worldwide. They knock off the top fashion designers and give you cheap versions of it, but they specialize in volume. Their business model is about economies of scale. And because of it, we're awash in clothes.
And what kind of stores are we talking about?
Like Zara and H&M and Topshop and Mango and Forever 21, which is teetering on bankruptcy. So it's kind of proving that this model may not be the best business model.
And how quickly are they cycling through an inventory or a fashion? How quickly does it go from the shop that's making it to the store shelf?
Within weeks, a couple weeks. I think Zara has it down to 2 weeks now, which brings customers into the store more and more often. At one point, Zara, and they spend more. the average store maybe gets you in there 4 or 5 times a year, and Zara will get you in there 24 times a year because you want to keep seeing what the new thing is.
So if it's only 2 weeks between the time that it's made to the time that it's stored, that means somebody's working some serious overtime hours to try to get that fashion ready.
Absolutely, and often they're not paid for that overtime. And what's more, they're paid barely a living wage. If something costs $19.99, rule of thumb is it probably was the person who made it was paid 19 cents. And that happens in places like Bangladesh and the Philippines and Vietnam, but it also happens in downtown Los Angeles. We have sweatshops here in America that are filled with workers who are undocumented immigrants, and they're run by overlords, and they aren't paid for their overtime, and sometimes they aren't even paid for their real work.
What has spurned this most recent wave of kind of capitalizing on these kind of market forces and finding cheap labor overseas?
Well, it's all started with NAFTA, really. I mean, it's been going on forever. We've been offshoring and looking for the cheapest price to make clothes since the Industrial Revolution began in Manchester 250 years ago. That's the business model as it was founded by Richard Arkwright, right then and there when we kicked off the Industrial Revolution in Cottonopolis. That's where I got the name, the title of the book.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. Oliver Twist, Dickens, talked about it then, and Frederick Engels wrote about it in the Working Class. And we had the Tazreen fire 100 years ago, or the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire 100 years ago, and we had Tazreen, 5 or 6 years ago. So these things still go on. This is how it's always been. The garment industry is something that moves around to finding the cheapest labor. Right now, the hottest market is Ethiopia, where workers are paid $24 a month to make your clothes.
Now, is that a living wage in Ethiopia?
No, it is not.
No. So this is a job, but not necessarily a job that's going to help them have a sustainable life in any way.
A lot of people argue that these jobs are pulling people out of poverty, and what they're doing is really pulling people from extreme poverty, but still in poverty. It's just half a step up. It's still a pretty miserable life, and they feel trapped in these jobs. Often they're advanced money, or they can't get out because they can't get another job, and they're not making ends meet, so they have to work 3 or 4. They're working themselves to the bone. And the people who own these companies are among the richest people in the world. The owner of Zara was at one point number 2 after Bill Gates with a wealth of $68 billion. So, it's kind of a capitalism run amok business model where a very elite get very, very rich on the backs and the fingers of the very, very poor.
To watch our extended interview with author Dana Thomas, visit pbs.org/newshour. So, when you look at the kind of fashion industry going forward, who are the disruptors? What are they trying to do to prevent some of this?
Well, there's some very cool disruptors. Some are in Silicon Valley, some are here in New York City. One is called Modern Meadow, and they're growing leather-like material in labs. They're coating the DNA, and it's called biofabricated material, but it looks and feels, in its science, if you look at it through a microscope, it is leather. But you can't call it leather if it doesn't come from an animal. And that could, really replace industrial farming, which is horribly polluting on many levels.
So what is something that a simple kind of end consumer can do to try to decrease their contribution to this industry in the way that it is now?
Well, I think shop less and burn through clothes less. The average garment is worn 7 times before it's thrown away. And in China, I heard it was 3 times. That's kind of crazy that we have this sort of careless, cavalier way of using clothes and wearing and burning through clothes. We used to not have such big closets, and we would buy 1 thing, not 10 things. Maybe we need to go back to that. Keep things longer, swap, hand-me-downs, cherish our clothes again, and not just look at them as a fad that are coming and going. Because they're inexpensive, we go, oh, well, I can always get another one. Or, oh, I'll just toss it and get something new for Friday night. We have to change that mentality. We can do other things too, like instead of buying a new dress, go rent one. Or buy on consignment, or put things on consignment. Keep things in circulation, but more importantly, just be more conscious and caring about our clothes.
All right, the book is called Fashionopolis. Dana Thomas, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Finally tonight, in the Bahamas, Chef Jose Andres' nonprofit organization, World Central Kitchen, is delivering meals as messages of hope this weekend and into the days ahead. Volunteers were in place ahead of the storm, ready to carry out their now decade-old disaster relief mission. The group is making not only sandwiches, but also hot meals for thousands of displaced people. The goal is to provide 30,000 meals a day throughout the islands. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Be more PBS.